Okay, guys, if you are sick of hearing about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's relationship and you feel like you are owed some money, or you're a true Swiftie and you just love her, or you think Travis Kelce invented the fade, that's crazy. You can bet on these
Like
things.
what? Yeah, you can. So there is a website and an app. It's called
Mhm.
MyBookie. MyBookie is the app. If you want to go to the website in your browser, it's mybookie.ag, like MYBOOKIE.ag. And it's a sports betting site and app. And they have like all the normal stuff, but special for this Super Bowl, they have like over 30 pre-game bets
That
going.
is
And
wild.
isn't it? There's so many different bets that all have to do with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
Like,
Like,
what color lipstick is she gonna wear? Red or pink? Ooh, or none at all. Some Carmex.
or like, how is she gonna wear her hair? All kind of crazy things. Like, is she gonna wear it down or is she gonna wear it up?
Is
And the
Travis gonna
game,
possibly propose? Wouldn't that be crazy if he proposed after the Super Bowl?
it would just scream publicity stunt. I wonder if that's one of the bets. Is something going to happen that lets us all know that this is for publicity? I don't know. I mean, everybody has been talking about Taylor Swift and
Mhm.
Travis Kelce and this Super Bowl, and I can't scroll my timeline. I can't turn on the TV without seeing something, hearing something about this. And I think it's wild. I went to the station the other day and somebody had a doormat about Taylor Swift. I can't remember what it said, but it's just crazy. Like there's all this merch
That's
going
so
on. I've
wild.
seen people, whoever designed her jacket. It was a cute jacket. And she had
Mhm.
Patrick Mahomes jersey on one side, Travis Kelce on the other. And she made like this custom jacket for her out of Chiefs jerseys. And it looked cute. But the fact that bets on her lipstick and her hair are on my bookie is crazy.
While I feel
Absolutely
like the
crazy.
true sports fans are probably like, bro, what there is, let's find positivity in every moment. You can use this moment. If your boyfriend or your girlfriend is a hardcore sports fan, they're like, don't talk to me during the game. You can kind of bypass that and utilize this. Be like, baby, I have a fun way for us to still connect and interact during the Super Bowl, and we can make
Mm-hmm.
some money off of it. Oh, I might
Mm-hmm.
even do that. Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's actually going to want to connect. I think they're just going to want to make some change, because it is a betting app.
Mhm.
Y'all need to get on there, and it might be a way for you to understand why your man or your girl, whoever's gambling in the house, you might understand why they're always on this app or what's going on in the app, and maybe while you're watching the game, you might be interested in some of the other stuff. But this stuff that's about Travis and Taylor Swift is wild, and I feel like whether you're watching the sports or not, just have, social media in one hand and get your tips, get your predictions, and
Mhm.
place your bets. Are you going to get on it and bet?
Girl, I already am. I put 200
Mm-hmm.
on she gonna wear red lipstick. That's all she ever really
Mm-hmm.
wears.
Yeah, I think she's gonna wear red too. She better not
Mm.
switch it up because I want to make some money off of it. Anyway, y'all have got to check out my bookie. They have tons of other stuff, but this weekend especially, it's all about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. You can get the app right now. You can go ahead and get ready to start placing your bets immediately. And hopefully this Sunday we all, in the day a little bit richer.
I like
So
that.
that yeah, so MyBookie, MYBOOKIE. That's the app in the App Store, or go to mybookie.ag in your browser. Good luck and make some money.
Happy winnings.
Yeah, check 1 2, check 1 2. Is this mic on? Is this mic on? Hey, listen, man. It's the one and only trendsetter DJ Sense, and you're listening to CockTales. Dirty discussions with Kiki and Medina Monroe. Yeah.
Today's cocktail is just a simple glass of some pink champagne, rosé, sparkling still, whatever is going to make your Valentine's Day more Valentine's-y.
Well, welcome back to Cocktails Dirty Discussions, you guys.
Hey, y'all.
Happy early Valentine's Day.
Happy early Valentine's Day. Hopefully you guys are celebrating and you are not sitting around sad or upset and dealing with somebody who didn't get you a gift when you really did want a gift.
Ooh, yikes. Well, yeah. I hope the best for you. And if you are single, match, that's okay. I hope that you have a good time and just continue to spread love. It's not all about getting love from your man or your girl or whatever. Just spread some love today. I guarantee you it'll make you feel better.
Absolutely. So if you have a sister, you have a brother, you got a mama, you got a daddy, you got a friend that you know is going to be sad, send him a little card or a little candy.
That's what my stepdad used to always do for us. He would give us flowers and candies, and we would always get gifts. So it was like no matter what, you got something.
I love that.
Nice consolation prize.
It's really funny because like I had brought you a gift. I forgot to bring it over here, but you know, it's Girl Scout cookie season.
I saw those Thin Mints on that counter.
I brought those for you.
And I don't know why. I'm glad you didn't bring them. You eat them, you enjoy them. I know many of you were very upset that day. I still don't like the Thin Mints. I'm still a Samoas and a Trefoils girl. The dulce de leche ones, if you can catch them. But yeah, I won't be eating those. But thank you. It's the thought that counts.
Happy Valentine's Day, y'all.
Happy Valentine's Day to you too.
Before we introduce our very special guest, we do want to remind you guys that we are on YouTube. So make sure you're watching the YouTube videos. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment. And make sure you join our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/CockTales so that you can get bonus content. We've been doing a really good job at keeping up with posting stuff.
We actually just recently had a live with someone who does the sexy massages, and she was giving us tips on being more seductive. And we had a really good time just talking to her. But then so many of the patrons shared some really wild cocktails and fails, and you just had to be there because we didn't record it. So join Patreon. It's patreon.com/CockTales, and check out the content that we're releasing there and hop on a live if you're available.
Now, this week, y'all, since we are getting ready for Valentine's Day and we want you to be smart daters, we want you to be smart relationshipers, we have a trauma therapist here. Should we call you Dr. Michaela?
You should not. I do not have a doctorate.
You said no, ma'am.
You said I'm not faking my degrees, okay? I know that's right.
Yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody who has, you know, did all of the PhD work. So no doctorate over here. Just Michaela is fine.
Shut. We have kids here today.
Medina's Chicago dog
come here, Shy.
is quite feisty, and my baby is just trying to play, but we can't play. Okay, so I have a question for you. How did you get into this line of work?
So I'm actually I do trauma work, but I'm actually a relationship therapist.
Okay.
So what happened? You want to know how I got into like the sex therapy part or how I got into the trauma?
Well,
both.
really both, yeah.
Okay, so we'll start with the sex therapy.
Okay.
I was in school and I was taking some additional classes because I was thinking about picking up an additional license. And I had the pleasure of taking a class with Dr. Tiffany Davis Henry. And she was teaching at the time, and she taught a human sexuality class and was required. And so a little fun fact about me, I have a little bit of mild ADD. And so paying attention in extended classes was really difficult for me. Typically, I would go home and reread the material, teach myself. But in this class, I don't know, she was able to just reel me in and with the content. And I was just like, this is so fascinating. The depth, the breadth of human sexuality, all of it. And I was just engulfed in all of it. So I was just like, you know what? I think I may have found my niche. So that's how I got into sex therapy, just taking that class, being taught by an actual sex therapist, someone who practices, right? And so it was just really interesting. And so went into doing sex and relationship work. And I just started to notice that when people were coming in, they were coming in with a relationship problem like communication. We're having a hard time, you know, getting along, or we are arguing a lot. We just miscommunicate. And that would be like the tip of the iceberg. But when you dig a little bit deeper, I noticed that most of the couples were coming in with their own residual stuff. They were having their own, you know, personal experiences, their own baggage, their own traumas, childhood stuff, prior relationship stuff. And they were just bringing all of that in. And I can tell that that was what was, you know, a large part of what was impacting the relationship. And so I just started looking a little bit deeper into like, how can I get to the root of some of these things? Because talking about communication skills, talking about, some of the sex therapy skills, like it was just a Band-Aid. It wasn't really getting to the root issue. So you would see these small gains, like they would make some shifts and then within a week or two, something would happen again. And I noticed like some couples, they were just re-traumatizing each other based on their childhood experiences. So I got into the trauma work because I needed to figure that part out. And then also people were coming in with really heavy stuff, molestation, rape, things like that.
Would they talk about that together, or you would find that out like separately?
Sometimes I would. So the way I do it is you come in together for your first session, and then I want to meet with you individually. I'm going to ask you some individual questions. I want to see, this is like where I call the truth session. This is where, you put on a good face when you are together. There's some things that you want to say that maybe you're not comfortable or ready to say in front of your partner. But when I get you in that room by yourself, or now I work virtually, but when I get you alone and I can ask you straightforward questions, then that's when the truth comes out. So sometimes they will say, well, when I was 8 years old or 15 or something like this happened. But it's not always like that heavy stuff. But yeah, so sometimes it would be in the individual. Sometimes it'll come out in the consultation. Like they know this is a thing that happened and they know that this is impacting the relationship and they want to work on it. So yeah, so that's how I got into it. That was a long answer. I'm sorry.
But that was a good answer, very detailed. So a while ago, we had Shay Primus on from Upper Echelon Matchmaking, and that's how we found out about you. How did you guys connect?
So Shay and I both went to Clark, Atlanta.
Come on, Clark.
Yes. So the mic was in the way, but I had to do my little Clark Atlanta. So she and I both went to Clark. And then we reconnected through a mutual friend several years later. And yeah, we just kind of kept in touch. And so
she was already doing the matchmaking.
Yeah, she already had a matchmaking business. And, I was just kind of following her. We had, kind of intersected at a few events of, with a mutual friend. And so she just called me one day and she was leveling up, her brand, and she was going to add a few more services, and she wanted a sex therapist and a trauma therapist to make sure that there was no like residual trauma that would keep some of the clients from being ready to participate in dating or being able to maintain a healthy relationship. So I kind of get to assess for that. And then, we do the pleasure profiles. So
Which I think
learn all about what they like sexy wise and their intimacy preferences, their sex preferences. And then Shay takes that data and she tries to find them a match.
That was one of the things that I loved hearing Shay talk about. I've never heard a matchmaker talk about like just the depths in which they go to try to make sure they're matching people correctly. Working with
the different professionals that you might use, because sometimes it seems like people act like they have this wealth of knowledge on their own as a one-man band, but to know that you have different experts. It's just like, what is that show I watch? One of those, You're Gonna Get Married in X amount of time, and they have the experts. And so even though those relationships don't work and it's for television entertainment, it is still interesting to see the different types of experts and the tips that they give, because that part is valuable.
Before we play the game, I'm curious to know, last week I got on Instagram and I was like, if you're a married person or if you're a divorced person, if you've ever been married, what is a question you wish you would have asked or something you wish you would have known before you got married? Not that you regret it, but do you just have some things that you wish you would have maybe spent a little bit more time on? And a lot of people said, I wish I would have asked about traumas. And I was like, well, that's not really something that comes up for the average person when you're dating.
You gotta bring it up.
You have to bring it up.
You have to bring it up. You have to ask those questions and then hope that you get an honest response. But here's the thing. A lot of people will say, no, I haven't experienced any trauma because they haven't experienced some of those major events. Like, no, I haven't been raped. I haven't been molested. No, I haven't been, a victim of domestic violence. But trauma goes, a little bit further than that, right? And so you have to know that you've experienced something and that experience has stuck with you and made a negative imprint on your life in some kind of way. Sometimes you don't always know that, right? And so, yeah, That's a factor.
So we do want to dive into the different types of traumas, the ones that are high up on the scale and ones that might not be high on the scale, like financial traumas. Some people might not look at that as a trauma, but
It is.
It can
it's
be.
traumatic when you think your card about to decline.
Okay.
You don't know if it's going to go through.
Okay.
Yes.
But me and Kiki created a game. It's called I'm Curious to Know. So
Okay.
we are going to let our listeners get to know you a little bit better. We're going to ask you about 2 or 3 questions. I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay, Michaela, I am curious to know, what's the longest you have waited to have sex with someone?
The longest I've waited to have sex with someone. See, here's the thing.
We're about to get a good answer now.
I don't remember. I've been with that man for so long. I'm gonna say probably 4 months.
Okay, that's long.
Yeah, probably 4 months.
Okay, that's a nice little chunk.
That is.
And I
That's
was
a good amount of
probably-
time.
I
And
was
you were
probably
what?
young.
Okay.
But yeah, 4.
You saying you
4
wouldn't do
months.
that if you had to start over? Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna rephrase this question. The question in the game is: would you date someone who has a baby on the way? But I'll reframe it for you since you're in your relationship. What would you tell a client who came to you and said, "My man has a baby on the way with someone else, and it will be here in 3 months"?
Leave.
And we have been together less time than that.
What
So
would I
it's
tell
not
a client
cheat.
or what would I tell a friend?
A friend, that's probably better.
Okay. Depending on how long they've been together.
Uh-huh.
And
Less than
were
a
you
year.
broken up?
They weren't together.
They weren't together.
They weren't together. This person is like, okay, I just found out.
Mhm.
Y'all are dating. Everything is fine. I just found out the person I was dating before you is pregnant. And I just found out
And
it's
this is a
mine.
new relationship.
This is a new relationship, less than a year.
Yeah.
Dip
so
out.
I would probably tell my girl that this is a big red flag. Like this is just going to be a really complicated situation. And if you don't think you have the spoons or the sticks for this, and you probably don't, sis, let's just go ahead and pass.
The spoons or the sticks. I
I've
like
never
that
heard
one.
that one.
Do you think you have the spoons or the sticks for this situation? No, I know I don't. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Is there ever a time when you would advise some or tell somebody, friend or whoever, this might work out?
I've seen it work out.
Mm-hmm.
Where somebody has a
So-
baby on the way?
Where there's a couple and they were together for a long time, a very long time. And somewhere in the interim, there was, I don't know if it was an overlap or a break, but there was a baby on the way and they worked through it and they're still together.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So it does work out. It can work out. I have seen that.
Well, we love to hear different perspectives here on CockTales. So some of you ladies that are dealing with that right now, maybe it can work out for you.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
That's why I said, how long
maybe.
have they been together? Because
If
this,
it's new, it's
this
like
particular
dip out.
situation, there was a long history already.
Mhm.
And then there was that situation.
Was it Ludacris and his current
No,
one?
I don't know them.
On that note, we're going to move on to weird sex. And when we come back, we're going to dive into different types of traumas.
You said a man is not a necessity, a man is a luxury.
Like dessert. Yeah. Man is absolutely not necessity.
Did you mean that to sound mean and bitter?
Oh, not at all. I adore dessert. I love men. I think men are the coolest. But you don't really need them to live.
Okay, you guys, this week's weird sex, someone sent this to me, and this is something that is going to definitely lead to some trauma for several people. Okay. So this story comes from Brazil, and there's a woman who has been arrested. She's 34. I don't know why they always include the women's ages, but okay.
Maybe it means something.
This part doesn't, but the child's age in the story does mean something. And Whitley, you need to relax. You cutting up over here. A 34-year-old Brazilian woman has been arrested after confessing to chopping off her 39-year-old husband's manhood and flushing it down the toilet during sex on her birthday. Why, might you ask? Because this man was allegedly sleeping with her niece, who's 15. And I don't know what is going to happen to this woman, but I'm glad that this wasn't a situation where the family decided to sweep it under the rug and tell the niece that it was her fault or anything like that. These stories happen far too often where we hear it go that way. But anyway, she said that she turned herself in to the police. And she said, "Good evening, officers. I came to turn myself in because I've just cut off my husband's penis." I mean, she's not denying. She's going to stand 10 toes down on it. And I feel like she's about to spill all of the beans and let everything out. And I'm glad that that's happening. And I just hope that whatever happens with this whole case, that he gets in real trouble. Because
That's
how can you do
crazy.
that? But I'm so glad that this wasn't one of the stories where it's been going on forever and everybody hides it and protects the family member. No, you were my man. You not anymore. Because you violated majorly. Anyway, thank you guys for sharing that story. And as sad as that is, it's good to see that everybody isn't hiding it again. Because that happens so much.
Yeah. And I feel like it's fitting for what we're going to talk about this week.
Because we're talking about trauma this week.
Okay, Michaela.
stuff.
Okay.
What are the different types of traumas that people can have come to you with, I guess, when it comes to like dating and matching people that comes up the most?
So I'll just sort of give you a spectrum of some things that I've come across, right? Of course, we all know like some of the major things that people go through, the domestic violence, the rape, the molestation. We put those in those categories. But then there's, of course, any sort of physical violence, any sort of crime being committed against you, car accidents, anything like that. There are just major life-changing, abruptly life-changing events. We know that those are traumatic. But think about some of these little things that I might call micro traumas, where
Like
maybe
what?
when you were smaller, you grew up with a parent or a sibling who was always sort of nitpicking at your appearance. There was something
You're gonna
about
wear
you,
that?
yeah. Or are you? Do you think are you sure you need to eat those cookies, or those little things where they kind of meant well, but they did a lot of damage. And I say meant well, but they, in their mind, they were protecting you from something, from being teased, but you were actually the parent was the one doing the teasing, right? Those little things that just sort of peel away or kind of prick at your self-esteem, if you're exposed to that time and time again, right? You get that reinforcement that there's something wrong with you, that you're not good enough, or that you're not pretty, or you are overweight. Those little things can be traumatic. And so if you get into a relationship and, you're with someone and they just question whether or not you're going to wear that because maybe it's cold outside. And they think, maybe you need to put on some more layers. You hear that question and immediately
You having a breakdown.
Yeah. Right?
It's like how they talk about the microaggressions in the workplace. They talk about that a lot. But what I don't notice is the microaggressions from parents or siblings or whoever close to you from a young age. Yeah. That can really sit with you.
That's a great example. It's just like that, a microaggression. Some of the other traumas that we don't think about that impact you are, say you were maybe a nerd in school and you were constantly getting overlooked or rejected, right? That rejection can stay with you for a long time. And so when you become an adult and it's time to start dating again, that rejection can show up again, and it can be really hard to kind of put yourself out there. Or it can be hard for you to sort of stand up for yourself because in your mind, you maybe, I don't know if I'll find another person. This is as good as it's going to get for me, right?
Oh,
right.
Say that again. Because I feel like some women and men might be experiencing that type of trauma and not realizing that could be a problem. You're not leaving a situation.
Find anybody else.
We just had several advice letters like that in the past couple of episodes that we recorded. I don't know if they've come out yet. So hopefully those people who wrote in are listening to this.
Right. So that's something that you want to try to work through as well. Or think about, of course, if you grew up, and I'm talking a lot about childhood traumas because our parents are usually the first person we love, and they're usually our first heartbreak. So those early experiences really do stick with us, and we don't realize sometimes just how deep that wound can go. So if you had a parent who was neglectful, or you had a parent who just wasn't around, just abandoned you, I've seen this time and time again. You had a parent, they abandon you, you internalize that abandonment as not being good enough. Years later, you show up in a relationship and you want to have sex. and your partner's not in the mood for whatever reason, they reject you, and it triggers your abandonment. It triggers this, oh, why won't they connect with me? Why don't they love me? Why don't they, so if you equate sex with love and someone rejects that sex, it's like they've rejected you, they rejected your love. So there's a lot of things that can come up. Think about, I'm going back on rejection again, but think about,
That's a big one.
Being embarrassed, asking someone out, and, it becomes this whole thing. And now I didn't grow up with social media. And so some of these things that these kids are experiencing now with stuff going viral, and honey, I could never. So that stuff is definitely going to show up again. Just, the way society programs us to think that we're not pretty enough, to think that we're not good enough. I'm too dark, I'm too light, whatever, all of those things can be, I would consider them micro traumas. If you've been exposed to them over and over again, and they left a negative imprint on your self-esteem, or they left a negative imprint on your self-confidence, right? And then you bring that into your relationships. Yeah. So I don't know if that.
No, you didn't. You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
This is just a personal question that I have about the imprint that your upbringing kind of leaves on you, but how it really shows up in your romantic relationships. Why is that?
I think what happens is, of course, trauma is stored in a certain part of the brain, right? I think it's the amygdala, right? And it communicates with your nervous system. So when you experience a trauma, it's not just like something that you remember in your mind. It's something that your nervous system and your body remembers. And they have this saying that, neurons that fire together, wire together. And I don't want to get too like neuroscience-y. I don't want to bore you.
Because we're not gonna know what that is.
Yeah, but
the listeners might.
They might, but I want to know while we sitting here.
Right. So, but basically, what happens is sometimes these things can concretize in your body, like the neurological connections. And so something that feels similar to your nervous system can trigger that traumatic memory. Maybe not in your mind, but in your body. Your body, I don't know if you're familiar with the book, The Body Keeps the Score, but it kind of talks about how the body holds trauma as well. Your nervous system also holds trauma. So I think what happens is your nervous system is responding to a similar stimulus, and it's registering this as something familiar, and I need to respond with fight, flight, freeze, fawn, just like I did when the original thing happened, right? And so, if I'm feeling something in my relationship that is reminiscent to my nervous system or to my brain as abandonment, and it remembers the way it felt when I was abandoned when I was a child, it's going to come up.
Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and it's no secret that consuming a little THC can help set the mood in the bedroom. However, getting that right strain and dosage can be quite difficult. That's why we're thankful for today's sponsor, Via Hemp. Via has developed a unique blend of pleasure-enhancing cannabinoids, libido-strengthening herbs, and a low dose of THC all into one mind-blowing gummy called High Love. We're talking about pairing aphrodisiac herbs with a mild amount of THC. Their best-selling High Love gummy will awaken your senses, increase blood flow, and intensify any sexual experience. Via also offers a wide array of other gummies. We've talked about them a lot, so make sure you check them out. They have gummies with and without THC, each with their own unique strengths and effects catered for your routines. And the best part? Via legally ships in all 50 states with discreet packaging directly to your door. No medical card required. And I can attest to that because it came in a little brown box and it was nothing to it. So if you're 21 or over, check out the link to Via in our description box and use code CockTales to get 15% off.
And if you are interested in, you kind of want to try this out, but you're nervous, you guys, I feel like my testimony should make everyone want to go and get Via Hemp. I absolutely love these products. Like, even if they weren't a sponsor, I would be talking about them. I love how they set off my date nights, not just my date nights, but every 2 weeks, me and my boyfriend do weekly check-ins every other Sunday. And before we do our weekly check-ins, bitch, we pop a little via him, the high on love, just so that we can make sure we're in the loving graces of what you should be in for communication with your partner and somebody that you care about. It puts you in the mood. You get to be high on love. I don't know what else to say. If you aren't interested in being high on love, I love their Zen gummies. I love the Cloud9's gummies. I just got a new shipment in and they have a new flavor. I think it's new. It's a strawberry lemonade. I absolutely love this brand. I love the product. I love how discreet the packaging is. I love how the gummies taste. It's not an overwhelming, like, I don't know what else to call it, like weed taste. It tastes like a Welch's gummy.
Like an herb taste.
Yeah, like, and it just puts you where you need to be, and they have tailored gummies to fit whatever the event is.
So let the gummies work their magic. If you're 21 or over, check out the link to Via in our description and use the code CockTales to receive 15% off, plus get a free sample. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with High Love from Via Hemp. How long does it usually take for a client, for you guys to, the client to accept that they have this trauma? Because you know how sometimes people think that they weren't a victim, they weren't this, they weren't that, but you're listening to them tell their stories and it's like, but you were. And that's okay too. Like, maybe victim might not be the right word, but this is something that has traumatized you and that's why you're in this cycle, or that's why you keep repeating things or making the same decisions.
So honestly, if I can draw the connection and using that explanation that I just used or something similar, most people will kind of be like, okay, that makes sense, right? And then if I can tell you, okay, we have some techniques that we can use and we can probably get through this in just a few sessions. They're willing, most of them are willing to address it. There are some who just refuse to accept that whatever it is that they experienced in the past is impacting their relationship now. And they usually don't get, they don't get that shift. They don't get that transformation in that area, and they keep experiencing those same problems.
Now, when people come to you like that, why are they there? Is it court ordered? Because I'm always wondering, like, why would you pay a professional who's supposed to help you through things?
So remember, I'm a relationship therapist.
Yeah. So it's
like 8 times out of 10, when a couple comes in, they're like, you need to fix them. So they don't think they're the problem. They think this other person is the problem. And we're here together so that you and me can tell this person that they got shit going on that they need to fix. That's usually how that goes. And then I will ask, certain questions to try to identify, well, what else is going on with you? Because if I come in and my husband comes in and I work on my shit and he works on his shit, can I cuss?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we were trying to keep it classy for you.
Oh no, baby, don't. Yeah, y'all be yourself in here. Okay. If I work on my shit, he works on his shit, then I elevate, I heal, he elevates, he heals, and then the relationship heals because we're 2 healed people coming together, committed to being our best selves in this relationship. But if I work on my stuff and you don't work on yours, what happens?
What happens?
I elevate and I realize, why am I here?
And we leave the session.
And now I have, and leave you, partner, because you're not doing the work. And we're going to therapy every week. And I'm trying to get better so that we can be better, but you won't do it.
But is that normally what you see? Because I feel like the people that I know in my life that are dealing with similar situations where it's like one person is working on themselves and the other person isn't, they don't leave the person. They're just like, I'm going to keep believing and keep praying that you're going to get this together.
It might not happen immediately, but a lot of times you'll realize I have different boundaries. I have different standards. I've shifted my values a little bit, and this relationship isn't going to work. Now, there are some people who just say, I'm just going to focus on myself, and they focus on the overlaps, right? So here's what we still have in common. Here's where we still, have things that we can talk about, memories that we share, things that we have that we enjoy. And they just focus on that, and they don't focus on the other things. Maybe you can find, a group of friends or some, a community somewhere where the things that you're interested in now or the support that you need now, you can find it in a platonic way. But a lot of times, months, sometimes years later, because you do want to wait and see. Maybe it didn't happen now. Maybe they weren't ready now. But if I just keep, doing my thing and showing up, maybe eventually they will too.
And let's say they don't, like what does happen sometimes. What is a soft way to let your partner know that you love and care about? Let's say whether you're married or just in a committed relationship, that I've outgrown you, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
how do you have that conversation in the least dramatic way?
So,
because that would be hard to, like, how do you say that in a?
I'm just laughing because it's like, how it's not going to be calm, probably.
It could be calm if you can be calm. Let's say it's you and you need to bring it up. Hypothetically, it's you. You can be calm. That doesn't necessarily mean that your partner is going to respond with calmness, but you can be calm. But it's just very much sitting down and being compassionately honest. We've spent these many years together, and I'm grateful for, fill in the blank all the time, all the memories, all the blah, blah, blah. And in this amount of time, I've been doing a lot of work on myself, and some things have shifted in me that are no longer aligned with you. And I don't think that I can be in this relationship and be true to my highest self, my best self, my favorite self, and still, show up for you. So I have to choose me. And unfortunately, that means that, we're going to have to end this relationship. And we're going to have to separate and move on, go our separate ways.
That was beautifully put. There is a quote. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Brene Brown. I love listening to her talks. And she says, clear is kind and unclear is not kind. And while you hope to be able to be clear and kind with people, when you have to think about you and sometimes get the point across, which is what we all ultimately want. You want somebody to be honest with you. Sometimes you lose the kindness. You can still be respectful, but if the clarity in what I'm saying is going to hurt your feelings, I would rather you be clear with me and let me know that I'm not in alignment with what you got going on right now, as opposed to you keep trying to make this work and deep down inside, we're not going to ever get to the same point.
I love that. I always say, because I teach assertiveness communication, right? Especially in the context of relationships. But just overall, assertiveness, how to say what you need to say in the moment you need to say it to the person who needs to hear it in the most loving way you possibly can. Give people the gift of clarity. I cannot stand, one of my personal pet peeves is passive aggression. I cannot stand it. Don't ghost me. Don't beat around the bush. Don't hint. Say what you need to say and give me the gift of clarity and let me make a decision. So I love that.
I love
it's
that too.
So much easier to move around like that because then you know what it is. There's no making up stories or situations in your head and trying to figure out where somebody else is at. You know where they're at because they told you.
That's it.
So when people are trying to give it some time because everybody works on different times, how long do you tell someone is too long to wait for the other person to make an effort?
I don't do that.
Oh, you don't?
That's not my job as a therapist to tell you anything. It's my job to help sort of guide you to your truth. And then you use that personal truth to make the decisions that are aligned with that. I'm not going to tell you, girl, 6 months is too long. What are you waiting on? But I might say, do you think that this is going to change? What evidence do you have that this person is working on this? How much time do you want to continue to invest? And what is it costing you? Those are the questions that I may ask you. And then you can kind of ponder that on your own and be like, I don't want to, enough is enough. I don't want to give another week to this. I'm good. And then you have that tough conversation. But some people, they'll stick it out for years. They'll stick it out, or maybe until the children are gone or, graduated or.
Are most of your clients women? Like, do you find in your line of work, like it's normally women trying to fix the relationship?
Mostly, but I am seeing
men.
Men. The men they getting there. They're getting there, and I'm always excited. I will try to, even if my schedule is almost full and I feel like I need a break. I do have, especially if it's a Black man.
You'd be like, let me make some.
Let me see if I can get you in. Let me find, because they need to do the work. We all do, but they definitely do. And if you're coming to me because you're ready to do the work, I'm gonna do my best to see if I can help you.
I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Do you ever ask clients who are new to therapy why they haven't tried it before, or just have an idea of what keeps people from going to therapy?
No,
No.
I don't usually ask that.
Mhm.
I'm glad you're here now.
Mhm.
Right? You're doing the work now, and so we'll just focus on the now.
Because I'm always
It's a
curious
good
about
question,
people's
though. And maybe I might start
hesitations.
asking, but
Yeah.
I haven't asked before.
I'd be wondering. I was hoping you knew.
Have you found, since you do work with Upper Echelon Matchmaking, have you found that Shay intertwining this in her practice of matchmaking actually does help get matches for people?
So the trauma work is for you, so that when Shay presents you with these matches and there's a match in there that is special and specific and unique and for you, you're ready for it.
Okay, so it's not necessarily like, okay, you have been
Oh, you're
abused.
level 2 trauma, so we're
Okay,
gonna find another level 2
I
trauma.
thought it was like you was
No.
getting beat as a child, you got beat. Y'all
It's
probably
part
be good.
it's part of the readiness portion of it. Let's work on some things because you're going to bring this stuff into your relationship, and maybe that's why you haven't been able to maintain a relationship. And so if you're going to invest the time and the money, because Shay costs money.
She
told
does.
us.
Yes.
Like,
It's gonna be a
ooh.
pretty penny.
Right. Get the return on your investment by investing also in yourself. Right. And so if I have the space, and sometimes I do like a half day intensive with some people, depending on like if they have specific memories. There's some things that I can do, and they work pretty quickly, these methods. And so I may do that. Or I may just refer you to somebody because you have work to do, and you need to find somebody that you feel comfortable, but you need to work on this because this is going to come up again.
Let's say that there's somebody listening to this show right now that this episode is really speaking to them. They're like, oh my gosh, I have some traumas that I'm carrying with me and it's affecting my dating life. I'm not being my best self. And they realize that. Let's say they can't afford therapy and they can't afford also. What are some steps that you think people can like, almost like, I don't want to call it a DIY project, but like steps.
Do at home.
Yeah, like little steps that you can do throughout the day to kind of assist with helping some of the traumas you might be dealing with. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you said, and they're not ready to go to therapy?
And
yet?
they're not ready
Or
to go
they
to
can't
therapy.
afford to go to therapy.
Or they can't afford. Therapy
Okay.
is, they're just like, right now, therapy is not an option, but what can I do on my own?
Yeah. So look into hypnotherapy, which you can find some some guided hypnotherapy things, right? Meditation has been scientifically proven to make changes in the brain. So meditation can work. Of course, personal development. So find somebody who aligns with you, is speaking to you, and it feels like, yeah, this is my person. They're saying what I need to hear. Find a podcast, find some books, find a YouTube channel of somebody who can encourage you. But ultimately, depending on how deep the trauma runs and how serious it is, find your way to a therapist. There are like community-based therapy centers who may run on a sliding scale. There are some therapists who will have some slots for a reduced rate or pro bono. There are interns who are being supervised by licensed professionals.
They need the practice.
And they need their hours, and reach out to a graduate school program. See if there's some way you can get in touch with an intern. But go to therapy.
And I do just want to add in, before we get into some of the fun stuff, because Kiki and I did do one of the pleasure assessments that is also included in the package.
I got some questions about that.
I wanted
excited.
Just, a reminder to everybody, and this isn't just women, like men and women who might be struggling with dating, as I have, Kiki, you have before. I'm sure, Michaela, you have dealt with, we've all dealt with our fair share of horrible dating experiences, and it just seems like it's not getting better. And I personally can attest to this. 9 times out of 10, it was me not dealing with certain things that I needed to deal with. And that is why like my dating experiences just weren't that great. And a lot of people might be like, that's not true. It's true. Sometimes you just gotta look yourself in the mirror and be like, am I the problem? And you don't even have to be a big problem. It could be a slight problem, but there might be some little tweaks. Just like every month or however so often you're supposed to get your car checked on. I don't know. My boyfriend does that for me. But like you everybody needs updates. Everybody needs an oil change. And it's like, if you're not
Any
keeping
sort of maintenance that you do.
maintenance, yeah, if you're not keeping up with that on
Haircut.
yourself, I mean, it's gonna start to create problems within your personal life. So just like keep that in mind. We be kikiing and talking shit all day, but we really do want y'all to like date successfully and just be smarter and find who you're supposed to be with in this beautiful world that we live in. Don't get bitter.
Or be happy with the decisions that you make and not second guessing everything that you do. Because that's another thing that we see a lot in the advice letters. And even when y'all think y'all don't need advice, but you probably do.
And again, that goes for men and
We've been through
women.
it.
The women send the advice letters, but the men that be bitter in the comments, you maybe need some help as well. Why are you so mad?
If you left us a comment in the past 365 days, you probably need some help. And you probably, I do see, I'm laughing and joking, but it's a lot of stuff where I can tell me, unprofessional person, that you've been through some things. And this, whatever hot clip you saw has triggered you. You don't know us. You never met us. You're not dating us and you're not fucking us, but you are triggered and it's got you upset, typing all of these messages and stuff. And I know you do it all day because you don't let anybody at you, because when I try to respond, I can't. But that's beside the point. A lot of people do have issues, and it's like everyone is not the same. We all have to remember that. How many times have you met a person just like you? So why do you think everybody else in the world is all the same? You got to just work on your stuff. Now,
work on your stuff. Can I add this?
Yeah, please do.
Please work on your stuff. If you're dating, if you're not in a relationship and you've noticed that you're repeating the same patterns, work on your stuff. And if you're in a relationship, don't use therapy as a last ditch effort. Don't wait until the shit has hit the fan and it's just like, okay, we're going to go to therapy or we're going to break up. Do wellness checks. Just, you know, how you go to get a physical, or hopefully you get a physical, or you go in and you get your, your annual or whatever it is. Do the same thing with therapy. It's a healthcare service. Use it as a healthcare service. Go in and just, we're good for the most part, but we've been bickering about this one little thing. Get on top of it before it becomes a big thing.
And I found that normally when you do stuff like that, me and my boyfriend have already started therapy. Like, we feel like we want to get married. And I was like, ooh. People talk about premarital counseling, but I'm a Libra. I be weighing out all the options.
Okay,
my nigga, and I'd be telling him that, like, I need you to know, like, people be wanting me, but I do want you. But we need to talk about all the things that we could possibly get into that could before you propose. Okay. So it's like it's like pre-relationship before the marriage. Like, let's make sure we know how to communicate, so you don't propose and now we're like, let's learn how to. No, nigga. Let's learn before that, because I don't want to be a divorced person. And there's no shame to the people that are divorced. I just really see like this vision and goal for my life, for my love life, that I don't have in any other area, any other part of my life. Like, I see how exactly I want this to go. I see the person, I have him. He is exactly how.
It's
like a whole blueprint. It's in my note. And it's just like really crazy. How clearly I see it. So I would like to approach it how someone would a career. You know the steps you want to take to be a lawyer. You know the steps you want to take to be a doctor. And you take them, you study, you get A's on that exam. And so
I love that.
Yeah. It's like, I don't.
What you got to say?
And I love that. And life be lifing.
Life be lifing.
And so be careful about the expectations that you project onto your partner or onto the relationship. Things are not always going to go according to plan, but are they going well? Focus on the big picture.
And I love that you said that, because at the point that I'm at now, it's not me. I want to make sure I am the person that I see in that vision as well. It's not even really him. It's like, can I be who someone needs me to be? Even when I think about kids, can I be the mother that it really is a me thing. It's like, but I love that you said that, because we still need to hear the options. But you also do something called a pleasure profile assessment.
I do.
Y'all, Kiki
That's
and
the test we were talking about on Patreon.
Michaela sent us the test. We took the test, and this is also included in the matchmaking service.
Yeah, this is a part of the Upper Echelon. So the test that you took is for the highest level investment. So
So we got a good deal.
Yeah, that's so
thank
far
you.
that's been exclusive to Upper Echelon.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking about if temporarily I may make it available to your audience if I can figure that out.
Oh, that
So
would be
I'll keep you
nice.
posted on that. It'll be for a
Okay.
temporary amount of time, of course, because
Mhm.
Upper Echelon has to stay Upper Echelon.
I love that. And
It
if we
does.
do that, we not upper echelon, but we do have a Patreon. It might just be for the Ride or Die members on Patreon.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
Okay.
a more limited group.
Yeah, more
Yes.
limited group. Okay, but let's get into it.
Let's get into
Okay.
it. So let's talk about, you do the traumas with the people, but why is a pleasure profile assessment so important?
So I don't know if you read the top of the pleasure profile, but well, first of all, obviously, I want to make sure that if I'm in a relationship with someone and I'm meeting someone, we're compatible in all areas, sex too. So that's extremely important.
Mhm.
But I'm mostly concerned about this pleasure gap
Yeah.
between men and women, and it's mostly women in heterosexual relationships.
I
The
can believe
lesbians
it.
are fine.
Mhm.
They're enjoying their sex life. But women in heterosexual relationships are not experiencing as many orgasms. They're not even experiencing as much pleasure. And so when I have clients come in and sex comes up, either they come in for that or it comes up, I sometimes will ask the women, well, I mean, I ask the men too, but I ask the women because most of the time it's the woman who's not showing up for sex. And I'll ask her,
Why?
are you having the kind of sex that you like? And the answer is either no or I don't know what kind of sex I like. So the pleasure profile assessment is so
Is
you
she
can
saying that in the room with the man?
sometimes, but I usually don't ask that in front
That's
of
a
the
good
man because they
question.
can't handle that question 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
So,
Little lion.
get
Not
him.
Whitley. Oh Lord.
You got a
Go.
little guard dog down there. But yeah, most of the time, it's, when I get them alone and I'll say, okay, are you having the kind of sex that you like? And a lot of times it's no, or I don't know what kind of sex I like. So yeah,
And
we
these
got to
are
figure that out.
grown women.
Yeah, grown women. Grown women. And there's a lot of reasons why women don't know what they like, but some of them don't know what they like. And some of them are just in relationships. If you've been in a relationship for a long time and you live together, something happens to the quality of the sex over time.
What happens?
I think the novelty of the relationship wears off. And so what used to please me easily isn't doing it for me anymore because there was a certain level of freshness and newness and excitement and anticipation that isn't there anymore year 7.
Do you think that it is realistic to think that you can somehow keep that alive, like that freshness?
I do think you can, and I don't think it's realistic to think that you're going to feel that every single time. There may be some ebbs and flows for a lot of reasons where the sex isn't what it used to be. And you just maybe try to have a conversation about it, or maybe you're just stressed right now. Maybe you're going through some health issues. But the sex will probably shift over time. What I might enjoy might shift over time. Maybe I wasn't into kicking, and just one day I saw something, and all of a
I
sudden
want
I'm
you to
like,
clap my ass. She
yeah, I
can
want
put
to
a
try
thumb
something
in my
different,
butt.
right?
Yeah.
So, but things can change. But yeah, a lot of times it's real easy to please us sexually in the beginning of a relationship when it's just, the relationship itself is just new and exciting.
As a therapist and giving people so much advice, do you ever mix personal experience with the knowledge? Like, is that a thing? Like,
Sometimes I do. So we call that self-disclosure in the therapy world. And I came up through a training where it was kind of like frowned upon to share your personal details with your clients. Because first of all, you don't want to influence the session, but also it's not your session, and there's some other reasons why. If it seems like I can do this in a way to where I'm really just trying to draw some compassion or some empathy, or to give you an example of, to let you know you're not alone in this. Like, let's normalize this, and I can normalize this from personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Then I might occasionally bring up my own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One more question before we get into our me and Kiki's personal profile, pleasure profile assessments. Do you think with so much assessments, the trauma therapy, the pleasure profile assessment, and trying to like perfectly, as far as matchmaking, like match people together, do you think that it can take away the excitement of getting to know someone? You know what I mean? Have you ever thought about that? Sometimes it's like,
sometimes I think about people like listening to the show, and it's like people we share so much on the show, and then it's kind of like gives people a cheat code if they were to listen to everything we've ever said that we wanted, because you can hear so much. Like,
so I think with sex, you kind of want a cheat code. Like, I want you to know what I like, and I want you to want to do it, right? And I see what you're saying. As far as like the matchmaking service, we kind of get this out of the way early on, and then you get to the matching, right? But I also think that if I've taken a pleasure profile and I share this information with you might be like, oh, I want to take something like that. You know, so it can be a conversation piece too.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying in terms of like, I'm just worn out now. Y'all done assessed me to death, and now I don't even, I don't even want to go on a date. But you get it out of the way, and then you get to the good stuff. So
the good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the main part of a pleasure profile is understanding what your accelerators are.
So let me explain that. Oh, I forgot the book. So Emily Nagoski is a sex educator, researcher. She is Dr. Nagoski. And I had the pleasure of sort of, I guess, meeting her. She wouldn't remember me, but I remember her at a sex therapy training. So there's this, ASECT is like the large recognized body for sex therapy certification. And they had a training, and Emily was there, and she was kind of like taste testing her TED Talk, if you will. And so she talked about brakes and accelerators in terms of your arousal. And your accelerators are basically the stuff that presses the gas on your arousal, and you turn up. And then the brakes obviously do the opposite. That's the turn down. That's the turn off.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, that's
bad
okay.
children today.
Yeah.
Well, they got to watch these chords. Now, you were just over here snoring, little mama. Right. I had to make sure she was still
No, they
breathing.
don't. I have dogs. I know how they act.
Sit down.
Okay. What was I talking about? I lost my train of thought. Oh, so the brakes and accelerators. The brakes are the things that slow down your arousal or basically just turn it off altogether. And so it's important to know this because you know how something may have worked on the last girl or the last man or something else, you know, king, queen, or in between.
And I'm glad you said on the last man or the last woman, because a lot of times women, sometimes we do use the same little tricks also, but it do be working on them.
They're a little bit easier than us.
Sometimes they are, so we'll get into that too. So, you know, what may have worked on the last person may not work on me. And sometimes if you don't understand that we're not a monolith, and what I enjoy is different from what the next person enjoy, you may misunderstand this as I just don't enjoy sex. Or there's something wrong with you, like you personalize it. But really, it's just whatever you were doing before with the last 2-3 people, it's not my thing.
And it's such a sensitive topic because even the other person, if you're telling the person that's not my thing, then they might, because I've been in this situation before, then you might be like, well, I don't know how to do it. And now we need to go through like a teaching thing of, and that's the part where people just want to skip and be like, well, let's just, I'm just gonna act like I didn't hear what you said. And it's like, well, no, can you try to coach me through it? I can do it.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a way you can make that sexy too. But you're right.
Something else I've noticed too is not always like this worked for the last girl, but maybe it worked for me a few years ago. I'm not into this anymore.
And I'm not into this anymore. So we were just talking about that, how it'll shift. Yeah.
And people get real sensitive about that. Well, you used to like to do this all the time. Okay, well, it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
My pussy's loose now.
I will say this.
I
we
want a deeper
do
connection.
a very raggedy job of sex education in this country. It's very raggedy. And so we're not even including a lot of the preventative and health things, but we're definitely not talking about pleasure. So where do you get your sex education from when it comes to pleasure? Right? Porn or conversations with friends who probably don't know what they're doing.
What do you think is an appropriate age for people to learn about pleasure? We had this conversation one time in a different studio we recorded at, and some people were talking about giving their young daughters, like 12 years old, vibrators.
That's okay. I think that if you're at the age where you notice that your children may be pleasuring themselves and you don't want to shame them out of a healthy sex life, then maybe I can see where that would come in. I don't know that I would do that as a parent, but I do want to have conversations with my children about sex, if these hypothetical children that I don't have. I do think it's important for children to learn about sex, and at a certain age, when you get close to that age of consent or close to that age where, they may be engaging in sex and maybe they're not ready to talk about it, but I want to make sure that they're equipped.
That they get real information and not just the information from their snotty nose friends.
It's tricky because
about pleasure specifically.
Every state has their age of consent. And so I'm torn between like the age where you may think you're ready and the age where the law says you're ready, to where you can start talking about, to encourage parents to start talking about these things with their kids. But pleasure is the reason why most of us have sex, because it's supposed to feel good, or it does feel good, or we're curious about it, hormones are raging.
And the lack of talking about the pleasure, though, is why the gap is so big between the men get to have pleasure and we don't. But I'm torn between, I don't have kids yet either, but it is like, I don't know how you have an appropriate conversation with young girls about pleasure without, I don't even know what to say that's politically correct, because it's like
without encouraging
you to be having sex at a young age. Because I also don't agree with that. Like, you need to be responsible. You can't just be like, baby girl, you gonna be out here busting nuts.
Well,
but dads do that with their sons. Dads are like, you're not in trouble.
Word choice is a big one, and then
you think what?
Word choice is a big one, and just how you approach the conversation with your daughter or son, and also like. I remember parents talking about sex as kids. They were giving me information, but it wasn't encouraging me to have sex. But it's like, this is what sex is. These are consequences. This is what can happen. It's not all bad, but this is what can happen. So
but do they talk about pleasure?
No, but I'm saying even still, you're talking about pleasure, but pleasure or sex, whichever way it goes, sometimes people are afraid to talk to their kids about sex and really give them all of the information because they're afraid it will encourage them.
That's what I was saying.
That's the connection
and
that
herein lies the problem.
Yeah, because it's not just about pleasure.
It's not just, and here's the pleasure gap. Because we don't feel comfortable talking to our teenage girls about pleasure. But our teenage girls are going to become young women. They're going to become...
And they're going to be curious.
Girlfriends, maybe. They might decide to get married. They may become a wife. They're going to have these relationships where they're going to be having sex. And they don't understand the parts of their anatomy that are there for pleasure, right? The clitoris is just there for pleasure. That's its job, right? And so if your partner isn't stimulating that, you're probably not experiencing as much pleasure as you'd like. So just to talk about the anatomy of these things and where these erogenous zones are, where these pressure points are that typically feel good, and how to stimulate them. And if I don't feel comfortable like having that conversation, there's resources, there's books, there's videos, they can get the information. But we need to be encouraging pleasure, because that's why most of us are having sex. And the numbers say we're not really enjoying it that much, right? Or not compared to men. Women in heterosexual relationships are not enjoying sex as much as their male counterparts, because we're afraid to talk about pleasure.
Don't be afraid
to talk about it. There's shame around it.
There's shame
you don't
around
want to say
it.
what you really want. You want to be choked and body slammed. But
so
you
there's
don't
no
want to tell
education for it. we don't talk about it. And if you grew up in a religious household,
Lord.
you have that, right? Where for some reason, we preach chastity to young girls, but, the boys get an exception. So that comes up too, right? That's also another form of trauma, by the way. But I don't want to offend no religious folks. So we're going to move on from
the
that.
unorthodox on Netflix with the young girl in the Jewish community that wants to leave?
I have.
And when they showed the sex part, I was like, y'all in there going through. Anyways.
Even in like, I will say on a much smaller scale, I have younger siblings. I'm the oldest. I wasn't in the house really when my youngest brother was, but when I see how things are between my youngest brother, he's an adult now. He's 22.
Okay.
And then me, it's like, I don't feel comfortable doing the things that you do in my mama's house at my big age.
Right.
But you do them. And it's so different with him that everything around sex is so different. He's in the room with his
Door
girlfriend,
closed.
locked.
What? The door is closed in
And
your mama's
locked.
house?
Yes, that's what I said. And I'm like, I don't think that you would allow me to bring a man here and stay here and sleep in the bed together because we're not married.
It wouldn't happen.
It's very different. And I noticed that. And even like I have an older stepbrother, and thinking about the things that he was taught and given, i.e. condoms, for example, versus me, you better not do that.
Right.
And it's just like, well, do we not live in the same home or the same place? And people have all of their reasons for doing it. But yeah, it's just like, it's crazy how different it is.
Yeah, so we
between the men and the women.
socialize girls differently. And then for some reason, we expect them to grow up and just know that it's okay to be a super freak for your man.
Now, speaking of super freaks, okay, so on the assessment, so you take the assessment, and the assessment is going to tell you different things about yourself. And there's a lot of questions where it's like, which one appeals to you the most? Which one, and some of the questions, it's like, okay, well, most of these or none of these and all of these things. Can we talk about our results?
Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay,
Before we get into it, there are 5 different accelerators.
Okay.
So hold on. There's way more than 5 accelerators.
4 or 5.
The software will only let me give you 5 options because there's research that says when you give people more than 5 options, you just start confusing folks.
Okay.
There's more than 5, but 5 is all I could give you.
So on this assessment, there's somatic accelerators, seductive, creative, goddess energy accelerators, and flexual accelerators.
Yeah.
You ready to dive in?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Okay.
Kiki, what was your primary accelerator?
It was like the seduction one.
Seductive. The seductive, make love to my whole self, engage my senses. That was mine too.
And I know it hasn't always been that, but
Okay.
that's definitely how I feel these days. That one was 54% on my summary.
Yes.
Mine
So
too.
there were a certain number of questions
Mm-hmm.
that had seduction
Mm-hmm.
as an option, and you affirmed 54% of those.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that means. Because the math on
Okay.
math, it doesn't equal 100, and that's why. So you had options where you could have chosen a different one, but you affirmed seduction 54% of the time.
Some of those, I was really sitting there like, which one is the right one? That might be our guess. Which one is the right one for me? How do I feel today? Not what is the right answer, but how do I really feel? It took me a while to get through the quiz.
Okay.
Because I was really trying to give the best, most accurate
and yes,
answer.
and thank you for not rushing through it because,
Yeah.
you want to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to share this information with somebody who's supposed to be pleasing you.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially if I wanted to be able to talk about it with you today, I was like, I need to know what's going on.
Okay. So what was your second one?
My second one is goddess energy.
Yes, that was you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So did you read that? Did you have a chance to read
I
over
didn't read that
one?
one. I stopped at seductive accelerator.
Okay, so we'll get into that in a second.
Goddess
Okay.
energy was my lowest
Really?
score.
Interesting.
What was your second?
My second was a tie between creative and flexual.
Yeah, you did affirm both of those at the same rate. So you like a little kink.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you, depending on your mood, you could go for some of those other things. It just depends on the mood that you're in. But
That's the
most,
flexual.
That's flexual. So flexual is, it just kind of depends on what type of time I'm on today.
That is very
Yeah.
much me. That is
Mhm.
very much me. You know, we went to Hedonism in Jamaica. Kiki and I both went with a group
Mhm.
called Worst
Okay.
Behavior Tour. And I went thinking I was going to be like, just.
Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah, I've been
Okay.
there.
Because I told
Yeah,
a
I've
few
been there.
I told a few people about it, and I'm talking. I was like, "Wait, do you know what
Yeah,
this is?
I
And do
didn't
need to give
stay
them back?"
there. I just have been to their beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you go to the nude side or the prude side?
I've been to the news side.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
I've been to the
what's
news
a
side,
freaking
mama.
therapy?
She gonna watch this. I was in college, and
You had to do your research.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
But it's interesting
Mhm.
because I thought I was just going to be a different way, in which I am okay with being. But when I got there, I just wasn't feeling it. But it doesn't mean that if I went back, I wouldn't. It
Right.
just depends on like.
depends on
How you're
how
feeling
you
in the
feel at the
moment.
time. There's a lot of
Mhm.
people around. There's maybe it was just a lot of stimulation, and maybe it would be
Yeah.
different if it was just you and your man.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's what flexible is. It's basically
It's like flexible.
I could go in between at least 3 of these out of the 5. And of course there's more than 5, but out of at least
the
3
big
out of
ones.
those 5 I could do depending on my mood.
Mhm.
Yeah. The goddess energy one
Mm-hmm.
is, I would say, more of like the esoteric side of sex. This is your tantra. This is your Taoism. This is your using sex to manifest things. This is sex magic. This is, that's what goddess energy is. So full moon sex and, all
I've
those
been
kinds
reading up more on stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Have you ever successfully manifested things through sex that you've noticed?
Not that I've noticed. And I haven't tried a whole lot, but
Mhm.
I've been interested in it and trying to learn more. We've had a few different guests who have mentioned things like that, and then I've seen things online, and then just the things that I would do naturally and
Mhm.
how I felt. And then it's like talking to other people or reading things, I realized, oh, this is kind of like sex magic.
Yes.
I see why I'm doing some of the things that I'm doing and how I'm feeling afterwards. And even just like how some sexual experiences can be way more energetic than others.
Mhm.
And the little things that we do, and just like how much also it stays on my mind.
Yeah.
Or I remember it, because I can have sex, and not that it was horrible, it was okay in the moment, but it wasn't memorable.
Right.
Or it was just nothing special. It was regular sex. It felt okay. Nothing was bad. Nothing
Yeah,
was
you
wrong.
want
I'll do it again,
an
but that wasn't
earth-shattering
It's not the
experience.
story-worthy sex. Yeah.
You want to feel like you have gone to outer space. This is how I imagine sex with Erykah Badu must be like, by the way.
That's what I be thinking about.
Yeah.
I want some Erykah Badu sex.
You want some Erykah Badu sex. So imagine being able to have an orgasm and nobody ever touched you. They just sent you sexy energy from across the room, or they just were able to get up on you and do like Reiki energy with you. And you could take that energy and it feels erotic to you, and you can feel it all through your body and have an orgasm. No penetration.
Or
So
even
the-
just
No
like the
foreplay.
thought. You ever have a flashback?
You feel
And
it.
it just like you feel it go through your...
So the assessment doesn't necessarily represent like what you're currently experiencing. It's what you want.
It's what you want. It's designed so that you know with clarity what you're into, at least for now, because again, years later, you might take it again and get something different.
Yeah.
But this is the sex I want to experience right now. Predominantly, I want to be seduced, right? I want to long for it. I want to fantasize about it before I get home. Don't just go right into
poking,
it. Yeah.
doing this.
Ease into it, build up to it. That's where most women that I've seen in my practice who have taken this, that's where they are. Most women, not all, of course, but most women, we want you to take our time. We want you to build up the intensity and the arousal.
And that's the seduction.
Accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't make it too easy for me. Tease me a little bit, talk me a little bit, make me want you, and then maybe I'll initiate more. Maybe I'll show up for sex a little bit more. Instead of just, oh, you in the bed, I'm in the bed. You know, hey, you know.
It's like the excitement of, oh, I'm having sex is gone. I've had a lot of sex
Mm-hmm.
for a while there. I'm not sneaking out. I'm not too young. I'm not being with somebody I'm not supposed to. Like all those little things that would get you excited, or just somebody new. Like the excitement in college and like early 20s of having sex, but having sex with somebody different. It was way more fun than it is today. Today, no, I'm good. We don't need all of that. So I
don't even want you to come over.
The excitement is coming from different places. Now it's more important. I'm fine with having sex with the same person as long as we can build on something. And then when you show up like a teenager or a college student, I'm very turned off.
Right. Right. College sex was whack for me most of the time. So
it's like I thought it was fun but now that I'm older, I know it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So did you go through all of your
not all of mine, but those were the top two.
So most men that I see, and of course I don't see as many men as I do women, and with Upper Echelon, the clientele is predominantly women, but most of the men are the somatic type.
What does somatic mean exactly?
Somatic means of the body.
That was on my.
It's mostly.
That's my lowest one. It's a 9%.
That's my third one.
Yeah, the 17%. Somatic is mostly like just the physical sensations and just the pleasure of sex itself in my body. It's about, it's about the genitals. It's about, the hurry up and do it, make it fun. I don't want to prolong it. I don't want to do anything necessarily that's going to be mentally stimulating. I don't need all of that. I just want to have an orgasm. I just want to come. And it helps me relax. And then it also might help me feel connected to you after the fact because we've had this moment. But it's usually a quick accelerator. So you have slow accelerators like seduction. Tantra probably would also be, or the goddess energy is typically more of a slower accelerator. Build up, right? It's not something that happens quickly most of the time. But somatic can happen quickly. So these are the people who's just like, oh, titties, I'm ready, right? It's just, it doesn't take much. It's a very quick, I can turn whatever I was doing off and I'm turn sex on. And it's very easy for them to do that. And so these are the people who can have casual sex with very little complications because they like the physical sensation of it. They don't necessarily need an emotional connection. Most men they think they're that. And I think that they think they're that because they haven't experienced some of these other things. And so this is the porn. This is the, the sex that we hear about in pop culture and hip hop culture. This is what they think they're supposed to like.
And I think that men just going back to also like how we don't talk to women or young girls about pleasure. And it's just like kind of uncomfortable. A lot of the times you hear men say things like, women shouldn't just be sharing their body and just fucking on anybody because like y'all need to, you receive all this energy and y'all hold it in and like all stuff. And it's like, that is true, but I'm starting to realize it's true for men too.
It's true for them too.
Yeah.
It's an energetic exchange on both sides.
You need to reserve some of the energy. You maybe also shouldn't just be fucking on any and everybody. You're taking in some of the.
Shouldn't.
Yeah,
it's the same.
It's affecting you too, and
They think because we have internal sex organs that we just hold that energy, but the energy is circulating, right? It's going. Well, so this is that goddess energy shit that I'm talking about. But yeah, if you believe in that, the energy is circulating. So what's happening in me is transferring to you and vice versa. We're going back and forth.
Yeah. And so maybe you also need to be a little bit more decisive.
Maybe a little more discerning.
On who you're choosing to share your body with.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think amazing topics. The assessment is very much needed, I think, in this dating world. I
emailed it to somebody. Read this. Yes. You need to read this. And we can have sex after maybe, but you need to read my assessment.
So let's say someone does take this assessment and they want to communicate this with their partner. How would they go? How should they? Should they
just do what I did and send an email?
Like, you can email it.
I took an assessment about pleasure.
Yeah, you can let them. It can be a talking point. Email it to them. Let them read it. Let them ask questions. I have a little game that I think I'm going to develop around this at some point.
That's a good idea.
So you can have some more conversations around what you like and what you think you don't like.
A civilized conversation.
Yeah,
so
or
you're
a
not
fun
just like,
conversation.
Maybe I don't have the best words for it. Maybe you can read this because I've been trying to say it and it's not clicking.
Yeah.
Let's read this and then you tell me what you think.
Yeah. And there's also in your feedback report, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's communication tips. So how do I communicate this to my partner? Right. And so, of course, you can just email them and let them read it. That's fine if maybe you haven't had sex or you're new to sex. But if you've been having sex for a while, they may be like, oh. But you can model some of this stuff. You can, in the moment, kind of, be discerning about what you respond to. So if something feels really good, you want to be maybe a little more vocal, maybe moan a little louder or, talk a little bit more nasty because you're enjoying that and you want to reinforce and you want them to know, yes, this I like this.
Reinforcement, that's
right.
Past that.
And then if there's something that's happening that is a little uncomfortable or it's not doing it for you, maybe you get quiet. Maybe you don't say anything. And if they're paying attention to that and they can pick up on those cues, they'll go back because they want you to moan. They like when you talk nasty. So they're going to do those things.
Like a puppy.
All these things go into
you give the dog, some praise, some love, a treat. That treat could be me. Then you learn. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
I always say pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Then there's also, there's always modeling, right? So I can show you better than I can tell you. Let me show you. Right? Let me do these things to you. Or let me sit on your lap and take your hand and show you.
Let me show you what I want.
Like show you how to caress my body or like don't honk my breasts. Or if you're going to go in for the grab, make it sexy and confident. But let me model this for you so that you can learn what I like and then you can do it. Let me do it to you so that you can see, oh, this does feel nice.
These are very sexy tactics. I love this.
They are.
With that being said, we're going to move on to Indecisive Diane. Before we move on to Indecisive Diane, I want to remind everybody to go to paradiseandvibe.com. Come to Fiji with me July 3rd through 10th. I said 10th. Let's go to Fiji, have a good time. We have a super exciting surprise to share with everybody on the keynote speaker, but we're not releasing that information yet. But go to paradiseandvibe.com, join the newsletter so you can figure out who it will be, and you can come to Fiji with me.
Would you stop thinking about what everyone wants? Stop thinking about what I want, what he wants, what your parents want. What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? What do you want?
Hey ladies, it's me, Diane, and this week's date idea is for my spicy daters. So if you're part of our Patreon, you saw that we have an erotic masseuse on, but this week I want you to be your man's or your lady's erotic masseuse. Get some sexy smelling oil, lube them up, massage them, and give them a happy ending. Don't get pregnant. Bye.
Head on over to patreon.com/Kiki Said So and join the book club. We are reading a really good book. I'm almost finished with it. Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, or Black Women. I forget. I don't know. I'll put it in the description box, but the book is really good. It's available on Audible. I have been enjoying it. I listen to it every time I get in the car. It's so good. But yeah, join the book club. And we're not going to do advice this week.
We jumping right to the cocktails.
We are, but if you do want to send advice, we're not done with advice totally. Make sure you email us advice@cocktailspod.com. And now we will move on to the cocktails. Remember, if you'd like to share a cocktail and have us read it on the show, you can email us that as well, cocktails@cocktailspod.com.
Once upon a time, not long ago, I was a hoe.
All right, Michaela. I told you what a cocktail was.
Yes. So I got to go first.
You going first.
You're going to be the only one.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the only one to tell the cocktail. Well, my cocktail is kind of whack. It's
I liked it. She gave me a briefing and I absolutely loved it. It's about a man she met.
We just got through talking about all this juicy stuff and I don't have a juicy cocktail for y'all.
Well, you got something real probably.
I have a real cocktail.
Okay.
So maybe about almost 12 and a half years ago, I was working at this community therapy center, community behavioral health center. And I had an office job then, so I was doing some paperwork type shit. And there was a man that was really kind, really nice, kind of cute. And he was also working at this, and he had a different role. He wasn't a therapist, but he was doing something different. And I was kind of crushing on him. But there was a couple at the office when I first started working there. There was this young lady and this man, and they were a couple. And I don't remember what happened because it was a long time ago, but I know some shit went left. And
they got fired.
It was a big ordeal. Like, I think somebody confronted some clients or something like that. Maybe the guy confronted some clients perhaps. But they fired the girl because I think her job was maybe a little more expendable and his was, a little more necessary. So fast forward to this guy that I'm crushing on. The behavioral health center that I'm working for, it's kind of like his people, his like godmother, family, they own the center.
So his position is solid.
At least I thought so anyway, right? So that's my line of thinking. So I'm crushing on him from afar. So anyway, I don't say anything to him. But 4 months go by and he comes in and he compliments me and asks me out on a date. And I said no.
Why?
Because I had just started working there.
Professional.
I needed that job. I had bills. And I was just like, they fired that last girl and you family. So if it come down to me or you, it's going to be me and I need this job. So I told him no. And I was just like, I really, like you, I just don't date people that I work with. And he didn't believe me, but he was gracious about it. I found out later that he didn't believe that. He was gracious about it. So then let's say this is August. I remember now I'm crushing on him though, low key. So one day on Halloween, like that Halloween, a couple months later, I get drunk as fuck. I done had so much wine. I don't remember what I was drinking, but I was trick-or-treating by my damn self at home with all of this alcohol that I was drinking. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to text him. Because he was just like, if you change your mind, here's my number. So I texted him. And I was just like, hey, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And he was like, who is this? Who are you? And so I was just like, Michaela from work, blah, 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 trying to be cute or whatever. And then he called me. And we had a long conversation. We talked for hours. And I think we met up, like a couple of days later, went out on a date. And we've been together ever since. I married a man.
No, that was a good cocktail. That's not boring. I did not think you was going to say that. I thought you was about to say he gave you a long talk like, I already got in trouble behind this, so don't send no more text evidence.
No,
not that's your husband.
Here's the plot twist. Okay, here's what I was supposed to say.
Oh.
We kept it a secret.
She forgot she married.
Yeah, I forgot the part that might have been a little juicy.
How
I was just like, for probably like a year and a half, so I thought, right? But there was this one girl who figured it out. But here's why.
Me at the office.
We had been together probably about close to a year, if not a year. And we decided to get on like a family cell phone plan. So I got on his cell phone plan. But I was at home and I needed to call the job for something.
And that name popped up.
Girl, that name popped.
Brandon Wilson.
She answered the phone expecting to hear him. And I said, hey, girl, blah, 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 blah. And I was talking and she was just like, okay.
She's like, I knew it.
Right. And so she had invited me to a party. And she was like, and bring him. I said, bring who, girl? What are you talking about? She said, bring Warren. Warren is my husband.
Bring the man on your family plan,
him. What you talking about, girl? And she was just like, girl, when you call the office, his name comes up on the caller ID. And I was like, oh,
at least she told you.
She said, I already know.
So, Verizon, can you update the name on the caller ID, please?
Right. So, I was just like, oh, damn. So I think I came off of that cell phone plan. I don't remember. But I think we kept it a secret for another 6 months, or at least we attempted to. And then we got engaged. And then that's when I told them.
That's a beautiful story.
Nobody got fired, and y'all are
nobody got fired.
living happily ever after.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed this. This was so much fun.
This was so much fun, but it was also very necessary.
Yeah.
We love trying to just help everybody and ourselves just gain a better understanding and perspective of dating and possibly forming the most important relationship of your life, which could be marriage or a lifetime partner. So thank you so much. If you're interested in any of our listeners possibly like booking you or anything, like let them know where they can find you and keep up with you.
I think I am going to see if I can make the assessment available. Figure out how to do that just for a temporary amount of time, of course. And I may need to add a secondary assessment just for kink, because kink is popular. It's
Our
huge.
audience would love that.
A lot of
They
people are
would.
into kink. I think kink came up on your profile. I'm sorry if I outed you just now.
I don't care. I outed myself on way worse things.
Right. Okay. So, but kink is expansive. A lot of people don't know it. It goes beyond like BDSM. So
That's the first thing people
I think it needs
of.
its own assessment, because again, I can only assess for 5, and there's way more than 5 accelerators. So let me figure it out. But I'll try to make it, available so that they can, if they're curious, they can go on and take it, and it'll be, for a reasonable price.
Is your Instagram for the public or no?
So you can follow me at RWC Atlanta. It is for the public, but I have severely neglected it.
It's okay.
So I'm sorry, but that's my page, and you can go and follow it. And I may start to post just because I just said this out loud.
Tell us the page again.
I think it's at RWC. And I have to say I think because I don't know.
Okay.
At RWC Atlanta, I think.
RWC
So
Atlanta.
the relationship
We'll
wellness
tag it in
center.
the description.
Yeah.
Perfect. Are you guys happy Valentine's Day again?
Yes.
If you're with someone who you love and you think loves you and they do not want to celebrate you, you might want to rethink that situation.
And if you do have love in your life, make sure you continue to spread it. Tell everyone that you love them. And I hope that everyone has an enjoyable Valentine's Day experience this year. Make sure you're also following us on Instagram. We're at CockTales Podcast. I'm at Kiki Said So.
I'm at Coffee Bean D.
And until next week, you guys, goodbye.
I'm sorry, but the person you called has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet. Goodbye. Bye. 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 Bye.
Population.
Goodbye. Bye. 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 Bye.